Hey guys, and welcome back to the World War II Solitaire board game channel. It's time to check out a new game. So today we're going to check out Lone Sherman, the Pacific, a solitaire war game, another design by Mike Lambo. Now this is available, it's a game book, and it's available on Amazon in most regions, and it's also available as a print and play game. You can get the PDF file from Wargamevault. Anyway, we're gonna check out how the book looks, and then we're gonna play a few example turns of the first scenario. Lone Sherman, the Pacific puts you in charge of a single Sherman tank and its crew on several Pacific islands in World War II, and task you with navigating your Sherman through challenging scenarios. With a little imagination, the game will provide memorable stories. Some events are randomly generated, but the player always has at least some degree of control over the level of risk they wish to take and how vulnerable they leave their tank to these events. This game is a solitaire war game. You play the game and the game will provide the opponent. Good luck. And then we have a picture of Mike here. Okay, so this the book starts with the rules, and then you have the scenarios. So it has a total of 12 scenarios included. And I think I read the rules, and I think they make a good job of explaining how to play the game. You have line of sight, and you have different hexes, and then how battle is done, how movement is done, and how you control your tank with different orders, and how the enemy units are ordered. So it might seem like there's a lot of rules here. There are quite a few pages, but there's a lot of example, and you know, it's big text. So all of these green boxes are examples. So we're getting to the end of the rules here now, and that's the end of the rules. And this is our first scenario. So basically the rules, if we skip the content page, they go from page number 4 to page number 31. So that might seem like a lot of rules. That's 27 pages. But again, there's so many examples and lots of pictures, and again, quite big text. So I think it took me about maybe something like 45 minutes to 50 minutes to read all of the rules. And I mean, I read it in good detail and also reread a few segments. And then we have our scenarios, and just one thing I want to note, there is actually a possibility to do the scenarios one by one, or if you wish to, you can do a campaign. So there's campaign numbers here. You have Tarawa, Red Beach, Saipan, Red Beach, Tarawa, Red Beach 2, and then you have Peleliu. And then you have suggested scenario rules or campaign rules on how to progress to the next scenario. So each scenario is going to be, each campaign is going to be a total of 3 scenarios. And again, you have a total of 12 scenarios, so that makes 4 campaigns. So our first scenario is Tarawa, Red Beach 1, landing at Bird's Peak. And then we have Tarawa, Red Beach 1, pushing inland. Tarawa, Red Beach 1, clear the west of the airfield. And each of these you have, might be hard to see when it's down here, but you have your actions, which is in green, and then you have the actions of the enemies, and then you have random events, and these are going to be a little bit different between scenarios. And then you have Saipan, the landing, Saipan north towards Garapan, Saipan clearing Garapan, and then you have Tarawa, Red Beach 2, the landing. So, and they start, I'm not sure if all of them start with the beaches, I think so, but yeah, the beaches are hard. Getting out of that water is not an easy feat. Tarawa, Red Beach 2, clear the central airfield. Tarawa, Red Beach 2, clear the east of the airfield. And then we have Peleliu, so this is the landing of Peleliu. Peleliu, Japanese tank charge. Peleliu, clear the airfield. And that's it. Then in the back we have our suggested counters. So I mean, you can easily cut these out and you glue them or tape them to cardboard, and you have everything that you need besides dice to play. However, I go with my own stuff. I just got some, you know, markers and some toy soldiers from Memoir 44. So I got everything I need, and I kind of don't want to mess up my book. But I think you can download these also from Boardgame Geek, so you don't have to cut your book in, even if you want to make your own. If you want to make your own counters. Okay, so the first scenario, let's go ahead and play it. And I'm gonna babble a little bit while I set up my stuff here. I want to say a few things about this book. I played a previous Lone Sherman game, which was Lone Sherman, just Lone Sherman, no other name to it. So you were in the European theater of operations. And what I like with this is that, first of all, it's the Pacific. I think the European theater has been overdone. I mean, if you look at World War II solo games, I would say that most likely something like 60–70% of the games are in Europe, or on Western Europe. And I mean, that only went on for not even a year, the fighting on the Western Front in Europe, if you count from June 44 when the Americans arrived. And I mean, you have North Africa, you have the Pacific, and of course you have the Eastern Front. So I am always happy when I see more games in the Pacific, the Eastern Front, and North Africa. And this one is the Pacific. I think that's really cool. I'm interested in Shermans generally, so I think it's a really cool idea to have that as a sequel to the ordinary Lone Sherman. And then I love how the campaigns are built up. So you always start with landing, which is quite rough, and then you move on to ordinary scenarios. So I think that was a really cool idea. I think if every map would have been this landing kind of scenario, because it's kind of hard getting off the water into the beach, I think that would have been a little bit too much. But having 1 out of 3 as a landing scenario, I think that's a really great idea. Okay, so the setup is super simple. First of all, what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up the heavy artillery. And for the heavy artillery, I simply have one of these mortars from Memoir 44. So they don't really look like artillery, but you know, you get the idea. So we will roll a D6 and place it in the corresponding red number facing that number. So we roll a 5, so it's going to start here, and it's going to face the number, so its hex or its line of fire is here. And let's see, then we have placed an anti-tank gun on 2 different red numbers. So we roll 2d6, we get 6 and 2. So 1 is going to start here facing the number, and 1 is going to start here facing the number. And then we have set up everything that we need with the enemies. We have our Sherman tank, and it's facing, you can choose the facing of that Sherman. So our mission on this map is simply to take out the heavy artillery and then move out of this hex in that direction, as you see the red arrow. To cross the seawall that you can see here, that's quite difficult. The only way to do that is with the miscellaneous action, which is a roll of 5. So that's kind of hard to do, so you might want to go up north depending on the situation up there. You start the game with 0 US casualties, and you are not buttoned up or have your popped hatch, and then you start unloaded with your main gun, so you mark that. Okay, so let's do a few turns just so you see how this works. You start by, so it's played in 7 steps each turn. Step 1 is remove Sherman smoke. However, we did not deploy any smoke because last turn was not a turn. But in case we would deploy smoke in this turn, the first thing next turn would be to remove that smoke. Number 2, position commander marked as buttoned up or inside, popped hatched. So we're not going to be buttoned up. We are starting at popped hatch. That's going to give us 1 more dice to roll in all of these 3 phases, and we need that because we really need to get off the beach. So step 3 is to roll, and rolling here is going to be in 3 phases. We have maneuver, attack, and then we have miscellaneous. That's really, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that word correctly because that's a hard English word for me. But anyway, you get the idea. It's random stuff, like you can do a little bit of all. So you can choose, do you want to start by attacking or do you want to start moving? But this one always has to be done last. So we're going to choose to move first or maneuver first. So the first thing you do is you check to see what kind of hex you're in. So if you are on a clear hex, you get 2 basic die. If you are in trees, you get 1. If you're in a building, you get 2. In a sea hex, you get -1. So we start with -1. Then you get 1 for if the driver is alive, 1 if the assistant driver is alive. So then we have from -1, we have 1. And then if the commander is has popped his hatch, if he's unbuttoned, you get 1 more. So now we have 2 dice. So we roll those dice. And now we can perform these orders in any order. So we have 1 and 6. 1 is reverse, 6 is move. So in any order you can do him, we're going to go ahead and move. And since he's facing north, he will automatically move north. The one which is reverse, I'm not going to use. If I would have rolled a double here, for example, a 1 and a 1, I could have chosen to reverse twice. Or if the driver is alive, I could have moved. Or if the assistant driver is alive, I could use the double to turn. But then you lose the 2 1s, which is 2 reverses. And then we go on to attack. So C here is 0, so our basic die is 0. Then we get 1 if the gunner is alive, 1 if the loader is alive, and 1 if the commander is unbuttoned. So 3 dice. Again, we can resolve them in any order. So we have fire machine gun, which is not going to help us because the machine gun is only effective against infantry. So we have a double though. If the gunner is alive, we can use a double to fire main gun. If the loader is alive, we can use it to load. So that's what we're going to do because we're currently unloaded. So we use the freeze to load. So we now have loaded our main gun. And that leads us to the last step. Here in a C, we have 1 basic die. And if the commander is unbuttoned, we get 1 more. So we have 2 dice. And we're all a 4 and a 1. So the 1 is extinguish fire, but we're currently not on fire. And for the 4, it's assistant driver can fire the machine guns. But again, we have no infantry targets, so we have no use for that. And then phase 4, we're done now with our orders. Phase 4 is rolling for fire level to increase, but we have no fire, so we skip. Phase 5 is Japanese unit operations. So you see you have the tanks, 80 guns, infantry, heavy artillery. You go left to right, so we start with the 80 guns. You see the number, they roll 2 dice. So you start with the unit that's closest to you. So we start with this one. And we roll 1 and 6, and they are always done in order from lowest to highest. So 1 is turn towards the Sherman. So he turns towards me, and the 6 is fire. That's a very unlucky roll for me, but yeah, he's gonna fire at me now. So to hit me, you take the target size plus distance away. So my target size is up here, it's 4, and distance away is 2 hexes. So he needs to roll a 6 or higher to be able to hit me. We roll with 2d6, that you always roll with 2d6 to hit, except if you're firing at the infantry, then you only roll 1d6. But in this case, we roll 2d6, and again, hexes away, which is 2, and size 4, so 6 or higher he will hit me, so very likely he will hit me. And he rolls 8, so he does indeed hit me. So now we need to see if there's any damage. So for the damage, we need to roll 2d6, and we take the target's armor value minus the attacker's armor piercing value. So you find the armor values up here for both enemies and your Sherman. And he's firing at my front. So this is my front, this is front sides, this is rear sides, and this is the rear. So the front value is 11. And an 80 gun has an armor piercing value of 2. So you take the armor value, which is 11, minus 2, which is 9. So with 2d6 now he needs to roll 9 or higher. And he rolls 8, so I'm very lucky. The shot bounces off. I'm good. So we move on to the next AT gun. And we roll 2d6 for him as well. And we roll a 3 and a 3. So with the 80 gun, 3 is turned towards the Sherman. So he turns, and then with the next 3, he turns again. And then we roll for our heavy artillery, just 1 die. And he rolls a 4, which is fire. However, his line of sight is only these 3 hexes, so we're pretty safe as long as we don't move over here. And then we have our Japanese firepower, 1d6 per 80 gun, so that's 2. And then 2d6 per heavy artillery. So you roll all of these 4, and you don't want to roll 6s now. I'm going to re-roll that. So we have 1 6, and what happens when you get a 6 is you increase the US casualties. So we increase them by 1, so we're at 1 now. And if you ever reach 11, the game is lost. You have lost too many of your friendly units. You're all alone left. You're the Lone Sherman, and the jig is up. End of turn events, we roll 2d6, and look at the chart over here. We roll 12. So if commander is not killed in action, perform either a load, repair, not in C, or extinguish action if desired. However, we are already low, so we don't get anything from that. However, it's still good because nothing bad happened. All other events are bad for the Sherman. Okay, let's go one last turn. So remove Sherman smoke. There's no smoke. Position commander is buttoned up or popped hatch. So we have popped hatch. And then 3 will start with maneuver. So we roll again -1 because we're a C hex, +2 for the driver assistant driver alive, and then +1 for having popped hatch. And we roll 3 and 4, which is turn and turn, and we don't want to do neither, so we just skip this, all of these actions. Then attack, we roll 1 because gunner is alive, 1 because loader is alive, 1 because commander has popped hatch, and we're at the C, so the basic number is 0. So we hope to get a 5 or a 6. And we get a 4, and a 2. So that's fire machine guns and load, and neither of them does help me, unfortunately. So then we have the random C1, and we have 1 to start with, 1 because commander's hatch is popped. And we roll 3 and 6. 3 not in C, smoke or repair, so that's gone. 6 fire main gun or loader load. So our loader is definitely gonna go ahead and fire the main gun. So let's look at the size of this AT gun. The size is 5. He is 2 hexes away, so that's a 7 to hit. And then target in trees. So 5 turns to 7, 7 turns to 8. So we need an 8 with a d6, 2d6 now to hit. And we roll a 5, so unfortunate for us, it's a miss. So then it's the fire level, but we're not on fire. So then it's the Japanese turn again, and we start with the AT gun. So roll 2d6 for him, and 6 and 3, and both 3 is turned towards Sherman, but he's always already turned. You can see that if directly facing Sherman, do not turn, otherwise turn towards Sherman. So the 3 is skipped, and the 6 is fire, so he will fire again, unfortunately for our Sherman. So size and distance away, he's 2 hexes away, and his size is 4, so he needs 6 or higher to hit. And if he rolls a double now, my commander is killed. So he rolls 4 and 5, so that's definitely more than 6, so he hits us. So what damage or damage, that's number 2. Target's armor value minus attacker's AP. So my armor value is 11 and his AP is 2. 80 gun 2, yeah, so he needs 9 or higher to actually do damage. And roll 7, so again, I'm very lucky the shot has bounced off. That's the power of frontal armor. Let's roll for the next AT gun. 4 and 5. 4 is fire, but he can't. 5 is fire, but he can't. So he can only fire in these hexes, in these hexes, in these hexes, this hex, and this hex. So it's really straightforward how line of fire work. We roll for the heavy artillery, he rolls a 6, but his line of fire is only here, so we're safe. We move on to Japanese firepower. Again, 1 for every AT gun, and then 2 for that heavy artillery. We don't want to roll any 6s here, so we did good. And then we rolled for end of turn events, random events, we roll a 9. Infantry, roll d6, place on matching red number hex with no unit on it, no reroll. Okay, so we roll a 5, and 5 is already occupied by the mortar, so there is not going to be any infantry to come on the board, which is very lucky. And that, my friends, is how Lone Sherman Pacific works. So you can see that there's definitely play choices here, but you're also very bound to whatever you roll. So it is very much it actually says in the books that it's not a narrative game, and I agree. It's more of a hex and counter game. However, it's kind of a mix. It's almost like you mixed a hex and counter game with a narrative game, because again, you are very bound to whatever you roll. If you just roll, you know, the things you don't want, there is often not too much you can do about it. So that's how it is. But I like it. It's a really fun small game. It's the perfect travel game, and for such a small game, there's lots of content in it. And again, you have all the counters, so you can make the counters yourself without too much problem. Mike Lambo has made a guide on his YouTube channel how you simply make those counters. So the only thing that you're gonna have to provide yourself is the dice, and then you're good to go. Okay guys, I hope that you enjoy watching this video. If you want to see me play the scenarios, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because I'm gonna play the scenarios and put them online. So don't miss out, get subscribed. Don't forget to like the video, comment on it. Let me see your feedback. What do you think about Lone Sherman, the Pacific? What did you think about my tactics? Did I do what I should? Well, hopefully. Okay guys, check the links in my video description. I will link to where you can buy this from Amazon and also from Wargamevault. So, and I'll also link to Mike's own, the designer's own YouTube channel, so you can see his video on Lone Sherman and how to make the counters and such. And other than that, I just want to say thank you again for watching. I will see you next time.